Phantoms, written and narrated by the fictional writer. Chapter 1. 6 Friends Who Would Cast Out the Dark. Light fills the sky, a loud chromatic boom taking the clouds with it. Waves of rainbow light fill the air, and with it comes a surge filling 6 special mares. A rainbow-maned Pegasus streaks across the sky with enthusiastic excitement, breaking all manner of records and forming a need for the extreme. A white-coated unicorn stands before a cracked open boulder, brimming with gleaming gems, finding a deep, limitless inspiration. A pink earth filly experiences the power of joy and laughter like never before, with the need to spread a smile to all she can. A homesick orange filly finds her purpose, heading home with a renewed spirit and an unbreakable familiar bond. Shy yellow Pegasus will find her heart in everything that lived in the forests and trees. Her spirit will be kept with a fuzzy heart and a warm smile. A purple unicorn surges with magic, hatching a dragon egg and becoming a very special student. One by one, these elements would be called together by a spark, by this call to harmony. Together they would defeat Nightmare Moon and bring back the Princess of the Night. They would banish King Sombra and restore the Crystal Empire. And they would redeem Discord, the Lord of Chaos. And together they would earn so many more achievements and forge so many more bonds. Together they would save Equestria from threats new and old, big or small, great or petty. Together they would be cemented across Equestria, from the friends that they would make to the family that they would share. Victory by victory and adventure by adventure, at their peaks the elements of harmony would safeguard their world and rule the kingdom of Equestria. However, as with all heroes of legend, they would pass on. They were only still mortal. As with all legends, their stories remain long after they are gone. However, even the pages of legends fade with time and become lost, though their stories will remain by virtue of their last remaining member, the Princess Twilight Sparkle, and she would keep them alive with her tales of friendship and magic. Even so, that would fade with time, as Equestria fell into decline. The School of Friendship would eventually close, and the ponies of the realm would forget what a united Equestria meant. After a while, each remaining page of this forgotten generation would start to fade. Each word would become hazy, and each memory would start to blur until they died out. Twilight was alone in her castle, desperately trying to call back to the faces she once remembered with every passing moment. She was surrounded by long, dilapidated hallways, a far cry from the opulent halls of the past, with her study at the farthest end. Her eyes dragged at the carpet beneath her hooves, as her mind wandered endlessly. The expressive scholar who had at one point been in there before, behind those lavender eyes, had been replaced by a hollow version of herself. Her expression reflected it, dry and exhausted. The once vibrant lavender was now replaced with a dull and draining purple. She was lost in thought as she headed back across the vacant hallway, her steps stuttering with the echoes as her attention wavered back to the moment, and the window next to her would come into focus. She could make out the crumbling remains of Canterlot, the once magnificent royal city of the Alicorn sisters, abandoned and ravaged by the passage of time. Twilight would heave a difficult sigh as faint memories of the royal sisters would return with a brief glimpse of the grand gala in its heyday. These desolate streets used to be crowded with ponies filled with joy laughter, and the spirit of celebration. But now they sit empty, abandoned, and filled with nothing but rubble and brush. Her exhausted eyes would begin to well up with tears as a wave of agonizing nostalgia overtook her. Her days were consumed by these flashing blurs, and her nights were haunted by forgotten memories of better times. She moved swiftly down the hallway, pushing through the swelling emotions, with images of the stars, a rainbow lightning cloud, a collection of gems, colored balloons, a bundle of apples, and pink butterflies. On each of the remaining glass portraits, she passed down the hallway, and they couldn't stop her welling tears. These symbols of harmony were all broken, in disrepair, or on the verge of disappearing altogether, along with the rest of the once glowing city. Each step echoed through the empty halls, her hooves coming to a halt once she found herself in her study. A pitiful room of bookshelves, scrolls, and inkwells. She fought back her tears, letting out a trembling sigh as she paced the room, waiting and struggling for her emotions to quell themselves. She stepped behind her desk. Once what remained had composed herself, she sat in the lone chair behind it. She stared down at the unfinished pages, and she sat motionless for what felt like an eternity, her eyes locked onto the blank pages in front of her. Twilight would take a slow, deep breath, opening her lips as her mind wandered over what to say, even though she was alone. She paused, her eyes darting around as if searching for someone or even the right words to say, but she was lost and unable to find them. It was a name she was looking for, one of someone important to her, but she couldn't remember. She couldn't even remember his name. And pushed on, like she had so many times before. To take a letter. Her voice stuttered, and her heart picked up into a slow race as she took a quill with her magic, bringing it over to a blank scroll and dipping it into one of several inkwells, many of which were empty. She brought the tip of the quill to the page and spoke as she wrote. Dear, she paused, trying to remember the faded names of the royal sisters, or at least just one of them. Dear princess, no. Dear whomever, no. She sighs again, scratching out the letter and hanging her head, a sob escaping the mare. Why can't I? Why can't I just remember? She yelled out into the lonely room, straining her voice under frustration. A harsh, quiet echo replying before silence filled the room. The page lay blank as teardrops began to stain the parchment, and her voice began to crack. She broke, tears falling down her face, and cries escaping her voice to call out into the castle. She wept, painful and deep breaths cutting in between her sorrow. Her body shook and trembled. Her face dropped into her hooves as she let go of a buried wail. The room was cold and uninviting, as she could feel her throat burning and clogging up. Her eyes ran sore as she kept them clamped shut tight. It took time for her cries to quiet and her tears to dry. Her eyes were reddened and her cheeks stained like the page. Her mouth was dry, and her body wavered and shook lightly. She slowly caught herself and wiped her tears from her eyes with her hoof. Twilight looked around the room, her eyes jumping from old book to old book, though none were helpful. None were about her friends, or if they were decayed and unreadable. She let out a shaky sigh and picked up the quill again, dipping it in the ink once more and setting her gaze back to a fresh letter. Dear my friends, who I can't remember, I wish I could see your faces just one more time. I wish I could hear your voices again. I wish I could remember your names. If only you could see this letter. Every night I see these colored blurs and fading shots of my adventures with you. Every time I pass through the hallways of this castle, I can hardly stop myself from crying. We used to be the elements of harmony, but now I'm all that's left. Everywhere I look, I can see these passing blurs of what we used to be. They're faded and murky, but they're all I have left of you. Please, come back. Please don't leave me again. I don't want to keep playing this game. I can feel time weighing on me now. Is this what you all felt? Or did something happen to you all? Did we lose? I've grown a lot since the last time we were together. I can only barely remember a blur of us taking a picture together. One which I don't have anymore. I miss you all so much. I can't remember if I had an apprentice or what happened to them, but I believe I'm all alone now. I hope I'm not. I think there may be. No. No. I don't think he. Because of this, I've been working on something. I've decided to do something to fix all of this. Well, not for me per se. I believe this will keep the magic of friendship alive for whoever comes next. At the very least, I won't have to raise the sun and moon any longer. I only hope that I can see you all again after this is finished. Maybe then I can finally rest. But I only have to do this because I failed us. That I know. Kennerlot is nothing but a ruin. Our old home that I can't even remember the name of is gone. I think I don't even remember where it is, even if I would leave this castle. It's getting hard to write. I don't even know what else I could say to you all. If you can see this letter, please, 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 know that I tried my best. Even if I can't remember what my best was. Her heavy eyes would slowly shift away from the scribbled, unfinished letter, staring out into the corridor. Night had already fallen, and the only light she had was the soft purple glow from her horn and quill. I know you'll never answer, she says softly, her eyes gazing back down to the letter. But I just hope you've been alright. All of you. Twilight cut off her magic as she laid the quill down, staring forward as she sat alone in the darkness and silence for another eternity. Her voice was faint, trembling, a dull pain constantly being with her, and her heart was stuck in her throat. I just thought you should know. She would carefully rise from her seat and take slow, tired steps out into the hall, past crumbled attempts to write, leaving her unfinished letter for another time. Each step was difficult. In each moment, she was trapped inside her mind, trapped within the damned study, trapped with that unfinished letter that will never be sent. Passing by the old rooms of the castle and past the crumbling walls, she headed toward her bedchambers. Walking aimlessly, she stepped away from her path and headed into the old, crumbling throne room. Broken stained glass and tattered banners adorned the walls. The once beautiful red carpet leading to the throne was ruined, dirty, faded. Her old throne lay barren. The smaller advisor's seat lay in dismay. Dry tears ran silently down her face, a ruinous sigh escaping her dry mouth. She regretted what she couldn't remember and hated what she could. Every faded blur was so close, but oh, so far. And so much better than what lay before her. But it was so impossible to reach. All she could do was shake her head and turn away, back to her bedchambers. Twilight laid down in one of the two rooms that had not been completely laid to ruin, her crown on the bedside table, staring at it from her pillow. She wanted to cry again, but she had no more tears. The dull gold crown, adorned with her cutie mark, with her symbol of harmony, only brought pain to her heart. She inhaled deeply before slowly closing her eyes and wrapping herself in the blankets. She was once more, as she had been every night that she had to suffer through, left with only memories of the past for this brief period of time. Although they were hazy and jumbled, these memories were all she had. Memories of a group of friends. Memories of 6 friends standing against all odds and making every day the best of days. Memories of a grand Equestria ruled by the ideas of harmony and kept alive by the magic of friendship. Memories of the slow and happy days. Memories of the long and stressful nights. Memories of 6 friends who would cast out the dark. Chapter 2. Once Upon a Time. The ancient tarnished halls of the castle kept her awake every night. Moonlight peeks through the wild clouds and distant winds only to land on Twilight's face. She rose from her bed and walked over to the window before letting out a long, tearless sigh. The moon was so full and yet so empty. Unlike when she had started with the 5 others she called friends. The city perched atop the mountainside had been overtaken by the wilds of Equestria. It was now consumed and covered in moss and vines embedded between the stoneworks, cracks and crevices adorning the long, winding streets and the old, crumbling walls. Her attention was drawn away from the ruins of her rule into the lone, tall tower, which had once belonged to the Princess of the Night. Despite being engulfed like the rest of the castle, it still had a nostalgic feel, one that survived the fall of an empire. She was once more overcome by faded memories, but this time it was different. She could feel the cool wind against her face like the cool night that was once protected by the princess. She was given the slightest crumb of hope, as the tower, having been abandoned so long, she had forgotten that it even existed. Maybe there was something untouched inside its chambers. The sounds of hurried hoofbeats brought Camelot's desolate halls back to life as Twilight rushed through the empty keep, spurred by even the smallest grain of hope. Past shattered glass that once told the stories of guardians, and past tattered banners of the purple star of magic she ran, tears welling at the mere hope of something, anything to give her a vision of the past. Her heart ached, sore for the days of old, weakened by years of decay. Her wings unfurl for the first time in ages, the warm purple feathers outstretched and stiff, pushing her forward with an overdue heavy flap. She flew through the long, grand halls, dust and rubble kicking up from her hurried flight, her hooves touching the old floors again as she arrived, standing before the threshold of the tower's ascending stairs. She wanted to storm up into the chambers at its top and discover whatever it was hiding immediately. But she caught herself, unsure if it did hold something, whether or not it was still readable. Her hoof lifted for a step, and she hesitated. Did she really want to know what lay above? What if it held something? Something painful, something dark. Could she live with it for the rest of her days? Or what of a memory? The pain it would cause her, the pain it would conjure as it slipped away like everything else. She could go through it all again just for a moment of catharsis? Her lips drew another breath, her hoof trembling suspended, and she took the first step forward into the tower. She began the ascent, those questions striking her over and over again, assaulting her as she heads higher and higher. Could she live with what she would find? What about the pain it brought? The slipping thoughts, the blurred faces, and the voiceless conversations. How long would these last? Even then, it could be blank and faded, or nothing could be awaiting her. Nothing but heartache. Her breath quickened, and she could feel the panic. She could feel how close she was, how close that final step was. And there it lay, at the top of the stairs, the door, waiting for her to push it open and retrieve her gift or her curse. The room gazed out broken windows onto the surrounding lands across Equestria, higher than any other part of the castle. Bookshelves lay filled with blank titled books all around the room, and a single center pedestal awaiting her with a brown bound book. The purple star of her cutie mark on the front, drawing her close. Her heart beat in her ears as her eyes stay locked. She lifts her hoof, bringing it to the cover to gently open the solitary book. Her heart stopped for a moment, her breath being stolen out of her body and her eyes filling with new tears. Before her laid a single picture, faded and aged, but still there, with 6 special ponies crowded together in a tight hug. The beginning of a full and finished scrapbook. And just beneath the photo were 4 heartfelt words she never thought she'd see again. Once upon a time. Twilight slept soundly that night, tightly clutching the scrapbook to her chest and wearing a warm smile. This night, she dreamed for once, their missing faces and blurred memories no longer haunting her. The colors now have form. Their faces, their smiles, and frowns were brought back to her. Their emotions and personalities joined her in a great reunion deep within their old crystal castle. They exclaimed in joy, shed tears of happiness, and held each other with a faded sense of nostalgia in the air. Twilight cried and welcomed back all her friends, beginning to tell them of the stories she had, the ones about the fallen city of Kerala, how she became to be so alone. But she was stopped. The 5 other ponies simply soothed her, telling her that it must have all been a nightmare, that they were all still together, that the magic of friendship was still stronger than ever. She smiled and wiped her tears, then nodded. They retreated deeper into the castle. After all, what was better than being together? What was better than these moments, than these memories? These memories of 6 friends. Twilight awoke the next morning, eyes red yet full of a new life, and no longer that of a hollowed scholar. There was a new life in the air, a gentle sense of magic flowing around her and throughout the castle. It had been so long since she had even felt the slightest touch of this much magic. She had forgotten its feel and its energy. It was ecstatic. She jumped out of bed with the book softly hovering next to her, held by her purple magic, which was now more vibrant than ever. She took each step with a spring reminiscent of her friends. She trotted down the same lonely hall she always did to come to her study, and she slowed, taking a moment to stand and take in the broken stained glass with a new meaning. She tried her best to piece together what remained of the glass and repair each pane, even if it was fruitless. She smiled at each one. Even in their diminished state, they held meaning again. That was enough for her. She had to force her gaze away from the stained glass windows and their soft rays of colored light. Pink, blue, yellow, white, orange, and finally purple. She stepped through the purple rays and into her study, a gentle sigh leaving her as she cleared off the table with care. She set down the scrapbook and opened it to the first page, the one with the 4 heartfelt words. She grabbed a new sheet of parchment, one of the few higher quality ones left, and a brand new quill and inkwell with her magic, bringing them to place on her desk. Her gentle smile carries the air of the room as she prepares to write a new, final letter. Chapter 3. My Final Letter. My dearest friends, I now remember what we have accomplished, what we stood for, and who we helped. I can now see into our past and remember our adventures. I can call back to what lessons we learned and what we once taught. I I have sat alone here for ages now, and I have lost much of what we had. But now I understand why. I I had mourned all of you, and I grieved deeply. Even with the knowledge of a lifetime and the strength of a princess, I still could not handle losing all of you. Now I realize you've never truly left me. The broken glass, the faded memories, this wonderful scrapbook. Every part of the city holds significance, even if I was blind to it for so long. My heart still aches, and my eyes still water. Failure and success have been beside me every step of the way since you all have been gone. While Canterlot has fallen into ruin, I have created 3 gems. With a bit of hope, these will help harmony endure in Equestria, even after I'm gone. I've poured much of my magic into their creation. But when I found this book, I could feel the magic in the air. I could feel its touch and its strength again. I could feel all of you with me. Finding you all again has been the greatest gift I could have been given. We have been together already in my dreams. And I can feel that soon we'll be together again as a whole, as friends, and as family. I'm sorry for the tears dotting this letter, but you all have meant so much to me. And now I can relive our adventures, one by one, together again. It may have been a long time ago now, but I'm eager to know what comes next. I thought I'd let you know how much your friendships have meant to me. Thank you, your dearest friend, Twilight Sparkle. The end. Author's note. Thank you for reading, and thank you for listening. The story alone, when it was written, was in the works for roughly half a year. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do it or not, but I'm very glad that I did. I'd like to give a hearty thank you to all my friends on Discord. I really could not have done this without your inputs. So, thank you again and again. And I love you all. And also, thank you to the 512 viewers on FiMFiction.net. And thank you to the 6 commenters and 20 likers. The inspiration for this story came from Elemental and Old Phantoms by Prince Whatever. 2 beautiful songs that encapsulates Twilight's struggle with immortality. Magic and the rest of the Elemental album by the band Remake, which remade all of the Elements of Harmony songs by Acoustic Brony and Mondo Pony. Chant of Immortality and Thought I'd Let You Know by Forever Free Brony, who is just an amazing artist, and these 2 songs basically wrote the core of this story. This project would not have been able to have been done without their music. They were so keystone to this entire project, and I hope that you can now see their influences because it's been amazing. I haven't recorded a proper fic read in years. This is me coming back. I want to get back into writing more, and I want to get back into voicing more. So, this is exactly what I'm doing by voicing my own fic. Hopefully, this will help me stop being such a perfectionist and actually get me on this. If you want to support me, please subscribe to the channel. Please like this video, share it with your friends if you will. I've been told numerous times from other people that it's surprisingly good, and I write really well, so that has been a huge help. And thank you again to you, listener, viewer, or reader, or however so. This project could not have been done without you. If this launched on FiMFic to nothing, it would have been really disheartening and really hard to get back in. And I'd like to say thanks to my friends if they ever find this. Hopefully not. Because they also have been instrumental. So, I just want to leave you with one last thing. My name's TheFictionalWriter. Thank you so much for listening. Please check it out on FiMFic. Give it a like and a comment saying that you came from this video. And I want you to know that I love you. And that no matter what, it will get better. There will be a light at the end of the tunnel. And I'll be here to cheer you on all the way. Good night.